our principles for how to solve this problem are a couple. So one, so like naming and identity, this is the type of thing that's like a public utility. Like nobody should own the naming system of the internet. So this is true of DNS actually. So like DNS itself, the core part of it is a nonprofit open protocol of the internet. There are companies that then have the consumer facing side, and so they have this interesting hybrid model. But DNS itself, it's just like a neutral protocol of the internet. So we think that still holds true here, and that has really informed how we've gone about doing ENS. I can talk more about that in a second. Another key principle is that the internet already has a naming system. So with DNS, there wasn't really a widely used thing when it was started. So it was new, but now we do. And so we think it's best for users and best for the success of the technology if we try to remain as compatible with the existing namespace for as long as possible. So like ENS, we're not trying to like replace DNS anytime. DNS for what it does it really well. Okay, right? But we want to complement and expand it with new capabilities and to kind of bring the internet to this new decentralized blockchain future, but with as few collisions and problems as possible. When it comes to the simplified payments use case of ENS, it can support any arbitrary asset. So this does confuse a lot of people. They think you can only send Ethereum, Ether or Ethereum-based assets. No, you can send receive Bitcoin to a name, Solana, a Solana NFT, Dogecoin. So what this means is actually like you can send Dogecoin to bcmilligan.com and it's using ENS on Ethereum in the background. It's actually much simpler than people think. So a lot of people think that like if I send, let's say, Ether to Brantley.eth, that like I'm sending it to the name and that like ENS receives it and forwards it on to you or something. It's actually much simpler than that. ENS is ultimately just names and like data attached to those names. So I can store any arbitrary data. I could store a Bitcoin address, an Ethereum address, Solana address. I can store my favorite type of dog. I can store my phone number, anything you want. And then when I type in that name, let's say in a wallet, let's say Trust Wallet, like I'm saying Doge, I say send this to bcmilligan.com. What they do is it looks at bcmilligan.com on ENS on Ethereum, since based on context, it knows I'm sending Dogecoin. So it grabs the Dogecoin address in my records, it brings that back to the wallet, and then the wallet just sends it like a normal Dogecoin transaction on the Dogecoin network. But that just happens all in the background. From the user's perspective, like you're sending Doge to bcmilligan.com, but that's what's happening in the background. The information is entirely on chain, it's entirely decentralized. I mean, this is really critical to the whole vision of ENS. That like if the primary team developing, if we all died, nothing stops, nothing is hurt. ENS continues to go on. I hope people would mourn my death, but ENS would continue to go on, no problem, because literally we're running no infrastructure. This really confuses a lot of people. So and that's a key thing on this identity thing I want to say is that, okay, this has been happening in Web3 for a while of people, you sign in with your private key, use your ENS name and things like this for your identity. But it all been just like organically done with no standards. And some people were doing good practices and some people are doing bad practices, right? So the Ethereum Foundation and ENS, we teamed up earlier this year and we had an RFP, request for proposals, basically saying, hey, we want to find somebody who can like standardize what's currently being done just with best practices. We selected this company called Spruce ID. In the last few months, they've been leading this open community process to basically write an EIP. That's the Ethereum standards process, Ethereum improvement proposal. It's like BIPs, right? And that's almost done, basically to standardize this. And we call it sign in with Ethereum. So it's best practices. Here's exactly the message you should have people sign. They have like a JavaScript library. They have like an OAuth implementation, you can use if you want. And so you sign with your private key. You uses your ENS name as your username, uses your avatar from the records, uses any other profile data. And I think the cool thing about this is that this works not just for crypto services. We've designed it so that non-crypto services can easily add this as an authentication option. So like you're signing into some other random non-crypto service. They have like sign in with email, sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. Well, we made this so they can just drop into those options, sign with Ethereum as one of those options.